And from this position here, we're going to try and hit 3 different shots. We're going to hit a low one, a medium one, and then a high flighter one, all by just varying how we exit.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. Kerry Gray here today at Sentosa Golf Club in Singapore with their national coach, Matt Ballard. Matty, thanks for coming along, mate.
Thanks for having me on your channel.
Mate, we are here sweating it out, helping you guys at home with your short game. We're going to do some bunker play. We're going to do some pitch shots. We're going to analyze some errors that we see with the common golfer and help you guys at home shoot some lower scores. Let's get stuck in. All right, Matty, so what we're looking at here, and we went through about 5 or 6 different players that you coach in the short game, being really one of your areas of specialty. And we just had a quick discussion around their ability to change the flight of the golf ball, regardless of their skill level. Doesn't matter if they're a pro, doesn't matter if they're a beginner, by simply changing their follow through. Now, there is often times when I'm working around the green, players get fatigued and they get almost anxious about hitting shots because indecision. They don't know how they should set up. Should they set up like a chip or a pitch or something like that? Yeah. Now, we were just saying that you've actually got a simple strategy that you can use in regards to helping these players here, where if they set up the same way every single time, you can actually change their flight through changing the follow through and just simple ideas around outcome-based objectives rather than getting too caught up on the specifics of it. So
yeah, give us some clarity.
I would love for you to show us how to set up, and then some ideas around changing the follow through to change the flight of that as well.
For sure.
Okay, let's have a look here.
Sure. Yeah, I like what you said earlier about predictability too, like making it really simple for the average golfer and for the elite golfer. In this particular one, we're just going to get everyone to set up when I call a neutral position, quite a narrow stance. I like to have my chin, chest, and butt of the club sort of all in a straight line.
We can see that. We can see that your stance there. It's about a comfortable club head distance apart the heels, and also notice
that's kind of why I put that there. Yep.
And also notice that you've got your toes flared out a little bit as well.
That helps the pivot as well. But you know, without opening the face up too much here, we want to make sure that we have very much the same backswing on the way back. So not trying to complicate things here. We don't want too much wrist open or closed. Let's just use parallel to the ground as a benchmark to start with. And from this position here, we're going to try and hit 3 different shots. We're going to hit a low one, a medium one, and then a high flighter one, all by just varying how we exit.
So even with that, I want the players to not get caught up on the nuances of being perfectly parallel.
Yeah, true.
And don't try and position it. It's more of a feel, guys.
Correct.
So if we're just making some small practice swings, so if Matty just does some small practice
and I'm probably going to
swings,
go a little long or a little short, I don't know, but that's the point of it, is that I'm going to feel like it's the same length all the time.
Correct. So Matty's going to do some small practice swings. He's just going to feel that he's kind of getting somewhere around about that sort of hip height range just for a short shot. And we're going to use this pin out in front of us as a reference, but it doesn't really matter because what we're working on here is just changing the trajectory of that.
Sure. So the first one would be, I guess I call it a lower flight, right? So for those at home looking at this, I'm going to feel like my thumbs are pointing at the camera and then my thumbs are pointing at the flag. Something like that. That's just pretty much easy to start with, right?
So let's have a look at the practice swing of that. Okay, perfect. So you can see from this perspective through to there, you can see very equal-sided as such.
Yeah.
So you build a feel of that, then you're going to walk in.
Absolutely.
And you're not really changing your setup for these. You're going to keep the face dead square or slightly open?
This one's going to be dead square.
Okay.
Yep. Then we'll go ahead and hit the shot.
And we can see the launch of that and then the rollout. That would typically probably have a little bit more rollout than the next 2, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So then the first one, quite simple. I think that's a pretty predictable shot. I can rely on that one. And you can use that with your sand wedge, your lob wedge, your pitching wedge, and gap wedge as well, and you'll get slightly different variation on speed.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note as well, there's no right way. Yep. A lot of players are so comfortable hitting different shots. Like I myself love going high.
Yeah.
There's some players that love going low, and you can develop a certain skill set around what you do and become a very high level golfer. Like you must see some of the best players in the world hit some pitch shots and chip shots around the green, and I do as well, and you go, ooh, like that's great, but we don't want recreational golfers to look at that specific example and try and copy everything they do, because there's a difference between demonstration and ownership of skill. And these players have played golf their whole life, and they're they're very well versed at driving the handle forward and hitting that one shot. But that doesn't mean it's right for everyone. Right? So what you're doing here is you're almost giving the players at home a bit of a sequence and a step-by-step that they can figure out which one they're more comfortable with. right?
And I think that's very important. You make a great point. You know, what you are comfortable with playing on this particular lie to this particular flag.
Yeah.
And just giving them some options, some
Yeah.
variety, without changing too much on the backswing. You know,
Okay.
do the same thing all the time on the backswing, but all we're doing is varying the follow through.
Beautiful. So that was the lowish one.
Yep.
And believe it or not, you were pretty well exactly the
don't know.
same on either side. It was good. Let's follow up onto the next level for us. So what are we
Sure.
looking for with the next one?
So the next one, same again. We're not going to change the backswing. We're not going to really try and open the face much more either, but this one will go a little bit higher because we're going to be releasing this a little bit different. We're going to be feeling like, and I like to use the word fold. So I like to think about my right elbow folding a little bit more
Yeah.
on the through swing. Okay, so that's my main focus for this exercise. I'm not trying to finish with my thumbs pointing at the target. I'm actually trying to feel like my palm maybe touches the logo on my shirt.
So just get through to this follow through position again for me. So what Matty's talking about is that we're not trying to drag the handle higher
Correct.
to try and change this fine. All he's doing is, if you look at where his hands are, it's actually softening this, and
Yep.
then you'll see the rate in which the club head then moves more upwards towards the sky. Now the effect, Matty, what happens at the moment of impact as a result of that?
Yeah, so obviously I'll be delivering a lot more loft into the ball now because I'm working, as you said, softer and more upward this way. So I'm not leaning a bit more with the loft forward.
Yeah.
This should produce a slightly higher shot as a result.
Okay, great.
So I usually get players to start with just a simple right hand only, no club, make that backswing thumbs to the camera, and then just something like that, really simple.
Yeah, that's
This
great.
also helps control the radius, which is a low point control as well. So as soon as the arm starts to get a bit too long, players will struggle with this shot.
I've never seen that. So you get them to actually feel like their right hand is moving up for the right hander and
Correct.
actually touching them in the pec.
Yep.
That's a great little drill, guys. I've never seen that one before. That's going to give you the feeling of letting and almost simulating, like you imagine this is the face of the golf club,
Yep.
right? You're almost getting that coming up to a point where it's raising up. Now that
Yep.
would be an extreme exaggeration.
Yep.
But if you're a player who's always driven it really
Yeah,
low,
absolutely.
it's going to be a very different feel of letting it
Yep.
hinge up from that elbow and then touching your pec.
Yeah, this one's a cool one. A lot of people, because the elbow joint only works in one way. It's really simple for a lot of people. It doesn't want to do anything else. When you're trying to get players to release the shaft and add loft, the wrist is involved.
Yeah.
Now this one works in 3 dimensions, works in lots of different ways. So it's quite scary for a lot of average golfers. This one here, I'm not talking about wrist. I'm just saying, can you touch the logo on your shirt with your palm?
Yeah. Okay, great. So
Now, I'm going to feel like I do that, whether I do that or not.
so let's have a couple of rehearsal swings of
Sure.
that and then go ahead and hit it.
Okay, something like that.
Yeah, so same length back, and you can see.
Now,
he's
obviously, I'm not
folding
going to
up.
touch,
Exactly.
but
he's folding
that's
up a
the
little bit
feeling. I'm folding. One more, short. Something like that.
more. Perfect. Let's see it. Wonderful.
Not
So
bad. A little bit of a pull, but pretty high and a bit higher and softer than the last one.
higher, and we can see how much earlier that stopped
Yeah.
relative to its actual landing point, right? So let's call that the middle of the two, and then we've got one more here, which is, let's call this the real high soft landing.
Sure. This one's a little bit more advanced, I would say, and very rare that you would use this one. But this one's just going to have a full follow through, like you imagine you're hitting a full swing.
Yeah, wow.
But we're not using a full backswing. We're
Okay.
using a shorter backswing. So this one will help you accelerate a lot more because we have a longer follow through. So technically what we'll be doing is speeding up in through the ball. That may scare a few players, but in actual fact, if you still have the same principle behind it, you'll be exiting a lot higher, the ball will be going a lot higher.
So when you say speeding up, it's important to note that that's not the handle speeding up, is it?
Yes, correct. Thank you for pointing that out. It's more the club head, definitely speeding up.
Yeah. So how do we get a feel for that? Obviously, we've got the right elbow folding up, so you're able to hit the palm on the chest there. Is it simply about doing that faster?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's simply doing it faster. I think because we have an end goal that's further along the journey than the chest,
Yeah.
that would then incorporate that I have to finish a lot further around in that way, in that sense.
I was going to say then, otherwise we'd have a whole bunch of golfers just down at the range just slapping their chest like this really hard as they can go. So
Yeah, no, definitely not.
So the first one looked like this in the follow through, right? The second one, we're just releasing the head.
Yep.
And then the third one, you're almost going to feel like it's all the way up the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So let's have a look at a couple of rehearsals and then go ahead and hit it.
And I think one thing to point out here is that a lot of players will feel like this one will go a lot further. It
Yeah.
actually doesn't because the backswing is still the same. Now, imagine if you swung your driver back to here and made a full follow through, it's not going to go the same distance, is it, right?
Correct.
So that's the point about that one. So I think it's important to note.
All right.
So, same distance back. Again, fairly similar stance. We're not changing too much. We're not getting too carried away with opening the face. If you have to hit it really high, I can recommend some players can open a little bit, but for the purpose of the predictability of this, let's just leave it relatively square. Now my goal here is to feel like I almost rest the club on my shoulder. That's the end goal.
Great. Let's see it.
See how we go.
Yeah, beautiful. And look at that.
Oh, I hit the other ball, it might have gone in.
Would have been real close. So we can see that that one there, a lot higher, was landing a lot softer, would have stopped really close to that pin, mate. So something very actionable for the players at home to put into their practice. 3 different types of follow-throughs to achieve 3 different results. Really what we're looking for here, guys, is you can experiment this at home. You can try and do this short little one here where the handle finishes about level with the ground, or the shaft level with the ground. The second one where we feel a slight tossing, and then the third all the way up until the follow-through. Now just note that Matty there, he wasn't really giving it as much speed as he could. We're not trying to accelerate the handle. It's about feeling that the club head is continuing much of its motion towards the top. As a result of doing so, we're going to get more speed through the impact.
Perfect. Well said.
Good stuff.